Well, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you may be. Welcome to Zyxel's Tech Talk. My name is Tri Nguyen. I am the product manager, sales manager here at Zyxel North America. Good to have you here today as we discuss, all the kind of different partner solutions that we have within our offerings of products. And if you are a new partner with us, then thank you for being a new partner. And we look forward to working with you and doing business with you in the networking space. So, just a little bit of housekeeping. If you'd like to ask any questions, please feel free to use the Q&A section, and I will try to get to them as we go through the webinar. Let's go ahead and just jump right in with quick introductions here. Zyxel Networks is a worldwide company serving over 150 different markets. We've been in business for over 35 years. Over 1 million businesses work with our solutions today. We have over 700 employees worldwide, helping businesses make over 100 million device connections globally. We are partnered with a lot of industry leaders to providing different types of solutions, both on the front end and also on the back end, to make sure that the solutions that we provide are best in class and are using their expertise as best as possible within our products. So, because of that, we are also an award-winning brand internationally recognized. We have some recent ones with CRN as well. We are a channel kind of operation here in North America. So we work in the channel business. We have account managers who represent you and work with you to deliver um, you know, uh, any kind of piece in the supply that you need for these kinds of solutions. So David Chen, Andy Goodral, Jacob Olson, well, we all serve in the North American space and in Canada. And we are here to provide you with pre-sales support, post-sales support, tech support, like finding where the tech support people are for you, or helping you draft out, getting our systems engineers on board to making sure that your solutions that you are using are the correct ones or the most optimal for your customers. So we work through you and with you in all aspects of that. And also, we are your kind of your liaison with the distribution side as well. So if you need help with stocking, pricing, special discounts, or deal registrations, we are here to serve you. So the number one thing that has been a huge differentiator for Zyxel has been our Nebula cloud platform. It is a free networking management solution in the cloud, allows for you to manage a lot of different things, a lot of different devices, but allows for you to set up without even unboxing. You can register these devices via a mobile app, or you can enter the information, the serial MAC address onto the interface side on the cloud, and or you could scan the QR code with the app on the device or on the box and put that into your account or underneath a specific customer or customer site. So you can manage multiple customers in this kind of application, all under a single pane of glass. You can get things done, in a matter of minutes because once it's there, it calls home. The mobile app then, enters in the information. The device, when it is powered on, calls home to the Nebula platform and gets its configuration, gets the latest firmware, and you can configure these devices without even unboxing the unit. So you could pre-configure them so you can auto provision them later. And then once they're online, you have access to the information, configuration, the troubleshooting information, who's connected to it through the Nebula Control Center, anywhere you have internet access. So whether you have a computer, a laptop, a tablet, a phone, whatever it may be, as long as it has internet connectivity and a browser, you can get to the Nebula Control Center. So you can imagine this is like an IT person's and MSP's, a dream come true with the ability to have access to a lot of information, be able to troubleshoot things and also configure things without having to log into the device or creating special tunnels or opening up firewall rules, et cetera, to get access. So anytime you have access, it's from the inside out. The agents are built in to these devices. So there's no additional hardware or software that you have to buy on top of this to get this kind of management. You can configure, monitor that without a cloud key, without a local controller or anything like that. You can choose to use any of these devices, um, individually or as a collective. So it doesn't really matter, if you don't have all of the pieces or networking components of that network underneath this Nebula Cloud platform. You can just go with, let's say, our wireless solution and have that totally configured in and managed in Nebula. It allows for you to manage guest network access as well, captive portals with the voucher support system in the cloud, user and device management, authentication within the cloud, guest protection with guest isolation, and then connect and protect solutions on the security side from a wireless perspective. So making sure that uh, devices and uh, people and guests and such, they can't have access to certain things, or if they're bringing in potential security threats to the network, that can also be detected as well if that's enabled within your services there. It also simplifies remote workplaces, being able to set up easy VPN site to site, or being able to do site to device configurations with auto deployment. Of VPN tunnels, being able to use EV configuration uh, uh, wizards that allow for you to auto pretty much configure the client side devices or the client side applications software, or you can do remote access points, secure tunneling, where you could deploy an access point to the remote, and that access point will actually be the VPN bridge and encrypted tunnel through the internet back to a Zyxel firewall and giving you access as if you were sitting in that office space physically. So that gives you now a quick way to get remote access without having to install, VPN tunnels or VPN software within each device that might be connected. So that allows for you to drop in that AP to a home very easily and be able to set those security profiles. And when a user roams from the office back to home, it's as if they were still sitting in the office. It has built-in user management with the cloud as well. So you don't need any special external Radius servers to do authentication. If you wanted to do two-factor authentication or doing Wi-Fi authentication with WPA2 Enterprise, all of that can be managed within this cloud solution as well. And then being able to manage multiple different types of teams. If you are like an MSP, you might have different admin teams that manages different types of customers, or maybe regional type location of customers. You would have different groupings that you can then manage, again, all these different types of users as they come and go. It allows for fast and efficient over the internet updates. So when there's configuration changes or firmware updates, you can schedule those or set it for automatic so that it can manage that automatically for you. Or you can set a scheduled time so that it's not impactful to or impacting to your customer businesses, so that it can still stay up to date with the latest firmwares and feature sets, but not impact the users during business hours. You can automate and auto deploy this because you can pre-load the devices into a certain customer profile or customer subset or organization, we call it. You can then synchronize, you can do templates, you can do backup restores, you can do cloning of sites to allow for you to then pretty much auto provision, because the device, even though they're not powered on, you can already pre-configure them. And once again, they are powered on, they call home to the internet and back to the Nebula Cloud, the center there, and it will get its identity, it gets its profile, gets its configurations, etc. So it really creates for an easy kind of auto deployment scenario, especially if you're an MSP looking for a way to set up like an install kit to a remote user without having to roll a truck there. You can provide basic information. I think most people today have common basic knowledge of connecting different ports to, different devices, whether it be a router to a switch and then a switch to an access point, and then making sure that it's getting power. And once that's all turned on and it has access to the internet, everything can be managed remotely and configured remotely in that process. So depending on how you've, set up things, you can even do, we even have partners who will stage the components of that network. So they'll take an AP, a switch, and an access point. They'll stage it locally in-house, uh, plug it into the internet with the cables where it needs to be so that it automatically already gets the configuration, gets the firmware for that identity of that device. Then they just ship that off or take that onto site, and all that needs to be done is just to be plugged in and turned on, and everything else is done. So we can really eliminate or minimize the amount of configuration or installation time that it takes for you to get somebody back to get them online. And then, of course, because we have those backups, those cloud restore functionalities in a break fix scenario or even in a managed service scenario, you have the ability to even send out a swap or replacement type unit that is easily just swap out exactly where the ports are to these ones, and it will then also then can get the configurations that's needed from the cloud to be that particular switch's identity. So you can literally do all of that pretty quickly and easily. You can visualize your network like never before with our automated network topology functionality for VPN and for the site. It can give you information on what devices are connected to it. It'll also give you information on signal and port statuses. You can drill into those different ports. You can see real-time port utilization of PoE and be able to use that as well to either schedule power cycles, or you can use that to troubleshoot by powering on and off the PoE port to potentially reboot the devices behind there. You can imagine if there's an IP camera that needs to be rebooted, or an access point, or an IP phone, you can do that all remotely. It also gives you live diagnostic tools like remote cable testing functions there if you're using like our switches. And then it also gives you application and threat visualization and reporting in as part of the security services there. It's powerful and scalable, whether you have customers who just have one device or maybe ones that have 100 access points. The Nebula platform allows for you to manage any type of size customers. And our products, our Nebula supports over 100 different networking devices, including security appliances, firewalls, switches, Wi-Fi access points, and even LTE devices as well. So it gives you a big range, pretty much anything you would need in a small business platform, small business network. We have some sort of solution that will fit into that. So don't be overwhelmed with like the amount of different SKUs that we have. Many of our partners, pretty much choose what to go with, and then decide, hey, what's the best option that we could standardize on maybe these types of SKUs, a good, better, best, or even just a better, best option, and be able to use that to sell to your customers. Um, from a licensing standpoint, our products that have Nebula Flex, meaning that they can be used with Nebula or without Nebula, those have a base pack, which is a Nebula free. There's no cost to use Nebula on that base level, but just keep in mind the logs on them are a 24-hour log. So the intent is that you could activate it or to log into it and see something happen over the next 24 hours, so that you can monitor it, you can troubleshoot with it, and get information as you need to do active live troubleshooting. But many of our partners, if you're looking at a MSP model, or you're wanting to get this information for auditing purposes so that you can protect yourself, protect your customers, they go with the Pro Pack. And the Pro Pack gives you the full unlocked feature set, gives you all of the cloning functionalities, gives you then 365 days of logs, gives you the AI functionalities to help to mitigate different types of interference, or different types of switch attacks or network broadcast storms, things like that that it can detect and mitigate in that. So again, things that are, if you're an MSP or for larger deployments, we definitely encourage you to use the Pro Pack. MSP pack is if you are like an MSP or a larger system integrator that might have anywhere from like 20 different customers that you're managing, or you might have more than a few network admins that manage all of your customers. The MSP pack allows for you to have that kind of that 30,000-foot level management capability of all the different organizations. You, even with the Pro Pack, you have access to the different organizations, but then it's not as, I guess you could say, as it's easy. There's not a higher level that gives you reporting or alerts and alarms for specific organizations, let's say. Or if you have to remove and put in new admins, the MSP pack allows for you to do that very quickly, very easily across your entire organizational management solution there. So jumping into the different types of technologies, like I mentioned earlier, we offer wireless, switching, and security within the Nebula Cloud platform. So that's pretty much all you need for a typical network. What technologies you use, though, may vary depending on, I would say, budget, depending on the application, depending on the type of solution that you're trying to deliver. If it's just we just need basic internet connectivity for people to check email and to surf the web, then there are different technologies that allow for that to be at a most cost effective as if you need that to be. But then there are benefits, intangible benefits of why you would use something that is better or the best technology that's out there. So again, you have to gauge what type of solution you're trying to deliver, what budget you're trying to meet as well, and try to find that balance of not only budget but also application. We have too many partners today who basically take the route where they're just looking for the lowest potential cost so that they could win a bid to a customer, but they're just installing it in a solution that actually technically would require something that's a higher end device to help to mitigate the interference. And so they would deploy it and then run into an issue where now they're getting too much interference, and so the solution is not delivering what they expect from a Wi-Fi solution. And of course, then that causes issues. You can't go back and charge the customer more. And it becomes a mess. So making sure that your wireless solution and the technologies that you use from the beginning is very important to save you the headache, save you the time to in these kinds of deployments. So our wireless solutions produce, or provide you with everything you would expect for, wireless connectivity. We provide a wireless mesh solution if you want to extend different APs out to, extended range there, uh, and be able to use a mesh system so that you don't have to run an Ethernet cable all the way back to the router. You can do that kind of solution as well. Um, whoops. Smart Mesh, and then the WPA3 if you want to use enterprise level security, 802.1x authentication. You can do that within our wireless solution. Roaming is a standard within our products, and fast roaming technologies and assisted roaming uh, industry standards there as well. Trying to do, if you need to do traffic shaping for different types of applications, we can use intelligence application intelligence to make sure these different types of applications work better, or maybe they are VLANed on a certain SSID, so they have highest priority. You can do security at the edge with our wireless using Connect and Protect and collaborative defense and response so that it can detect malware or maybe a solution that is infected or something like that and be able to take action and be able to mitigate that threat at the access point level. Typically, that's reserved into the kind of the firewall level of the solution. But if somebody comes in, especially a guest network, how do you block and make sure that that is a clean device to utilizing these kinds of services? And then advanced Wi-Fi features. This is part of what you would find in the pro licenses is Wi-Fi aid, Wi-Fi health. It allows for you to then get information beyond just the signal strength information, but actually using AI, machine learning to help to push and mitigate interference, changing channels, moving customers to different bands, things like that, that can be done within the cloud to kind of orchestrate that whole network to make sure that it's running as efficiently as possible. Scheduling SSIDs. Some of our business customers will only turn on, certain SSIDs at certain times, but you can imagine this could be useful in a hospitality environment. Imagine just saying, hey, during the weekend, you have a convention coming, Zyxel's coming and hosting. We would like to have a Zyxel SSID. You can schedule for an SSID that pops up with a certain passphrase, whatever it may be, to with an SSID of Zyxel. And then you can then, those people who are attending will connect. And then after the weekend's over, it can automatically be unavailable for that. So you can pre-schedule things and offer that as a cool service. And then dynamic personal pre-shared key is a great thing to have, especially in today's day and age with Wi-Fi. You could walk into a Wi-Fi hotel and you can see 100 different SSIDs, and then you see multiple SSIDs of that building, um, for that customer or for that client, and you can actually eliminate all of that. So rather than having a private network, a public network, a Wi-Fi network for your cameras, a Wi-Fi network for your phone systems or your POS systems, whatever it is, you can have one SSID, and based on that pre-shared key that they use, it puts them into that appropriate VLAN bucket. So that's what dynamic personal pre-shared key does. So then it allows for you to clean it all up and say, hey, just connect to the Zyxel SSID based on the passphrase that you've been given to connect to a specific type of it. Then all the phones will connect to that using a phone a passphrase, and that all those phones are going to be on their own virtual network. So that's the power of the dynamic pre-shared key there. We also take pride in our design of our Wi-Fi products. So we design to make sure that the RF, we don't just take some standard product that is manufactured out there and just slap a label on it and call it Zyxel. We actually go through the process of actually making the product, making sure the RF, the client, the interference that happens within the device, and the performance of it is as optimal as possible for that device. So you'll see when you do pick up one of our products, it is quite heavy in a sense that because it's built with shielding, it's built with all sorts of heat sinks and such to again to maximize the product capability. One of the key differentiators of our wireless solution helps to mitigate what is called code channel interference. That's the number one reason why Wi-Fi looks like it's there but doesn't work. Just imagine if you had 100 people in a room and they were all talking to each other, just like when we're at a convention or you're at a an event or whatever it is. It's very hard to hear each other, even though you're standing right there. That's my analogy of kind of a co-channel interference. All the background noise and everything that's happening is causing interference. We have different types of APs. One that has like a dual optimized antenna that differentiates us from uh, vendors that don't have this. So typically APs are made to be like ceiling mounted, but in some cases you can't install it on the ceiling. You have to put it on a side wall. But if the configuration is made for ceiling, you're going to have the signal going kind of in between the floors rather than going and covering out into the floor. We have what we call dual optimized antenna functionality, where within the software you can then change the configuration that you're saying, hey, this is going to be wall mounted, and it will change the dynamics of the antenna patterns so that it will then switch over to broadcasting across the floor rather than up and down. So that mitigates interference between the floors and allows for coverage within the floor. The other solution in dealing with co-channel interference is if you have two APs that are kind of loud or talking to each, like overlapping in channels, if you reduce the channel, it helps to reduce the noise, right? It's just like if you and I were talking and everybody just whispered and talked at a lower voice, then we can all understand each other. But just like in a classroom and in those kinds of environments, everybody just starts speaking louder and louder, and it just becomes almost unsustainable. So even in this case, you lose coverage because you are lowering the power. So that's not a great solution there. So what can you do? Smart antenna increases capacity, increases coverage, it reduces interference. And what it does is this is how it works. Usually you have an antenna that will do 360 or do directional type of types of connectivity or bands from the antenna. So in this particular case, when there's not a smart antenna and there's sources of interference, it can cause interference in and noise within that environment. But with smart antenna technology, we will actually look at and the device will test out over 700 different patterns and be able to optimize kind of the directionalization of what works best with that client at that particular time. And so what it does is it reduces the noise behind. It can listen towards the device as well as speak towards the device better to mitigate interference. And the beauty of our solution is that it does not require anything from the client side. we are doing everything within our side to making sure that this actually is beneficial. So you don't need the same technology on the client side in order to benefit with some of the other kind of beam forming type technologies. So what this allows is our solution allows for us to do this kind of um, uh, interference mitigation with, I would call, devices that don't have these kind of technologies. So you can have your scanners, your PIM devices, your POS systems that don't have any kind of these technologies, but can benefit from lesser interference, right? So that's the whole goal of smart antenna technology. And just so you know, the smart antenna technology is part of the Ultimate series or higher. So you will typically find a denotation within the product SKU itself that says has an S in it. So if it ends in S, then it means that it has smart antenna technology. If it ends in a D, that means it's dual optimized antenna. So it's made for either the ceiling or for the wall. And then the other ones, if they don't have any kind of denotations, then they are just your standard, like, hockey puck type access points that usually goes into a ceiling or on a desk. Um, Wi-Fi 7 is what is going to be continue to push not only Wi-Fi technologies, but then also uh, switch technologies and ultimately internet connectivity as well as that comes to catch up. But I think the biggest thing is not the speed at which Wi-Fi 7 will give you, not the bandwidth that's capable of doing, but it is the multi uh, multi-link operator operation functionalities that Wi-Fi 7 introduces. And this is what is going to be the game changer of why you would move to Wi-Fi 7. Not because of speed, because I think most of you, your customers, probably have less than a gigabit speed internet connectivity. So what's the benefit of, a 5 or a 10 gig Wi-Fi connection? Not typical, unless you have some local resources that maybe the backup system or some sort of virtualized system device that can utilize, you have a 10 gig network within, then of course you can get that kind of benefit. But the biggest benefit is the multi-link operation. And what it does is in your typical Wi-Fi, like Wi-Fi 6 today, you have to choose, the device will choose whether it's connected to 2.4 or 5 gigahertz. Usually it's the client, but again, with our technologies and using kind of the Wi-Fi health, we can actually steer customers to a non, I guess, or a less interfering band. If that the area is if that's best for them at that time. So you have to choose between 2.4 or 5 gigahertz. You can't do both. But with multi-link operation, you technically can go with all three bands. You can go with 2.4, 5 gigahertz, and 6 gigahertz range on the access points that are discussing or talking to you. So that allows for you to now, you have better reach, you have better latency because you could be getting packets from multiple sources and multiple links there. And then that, as an aggregate, also can increase your bandwidth and allows for packets to be more reliable. So there's packet duplication over multiple links that can happen there, and it helps you to dynamically avoid interference. So that's going to be the game changer there. So if you have solutions or deployments that have very difficult Wi-Fi, connectivity, and or there's a lot of different types of noise and a lot of other devices, maybe in a multi-tenant building type scenario, or even when you have many different devices. I would say, like, in a coverage area, if you have like 20 to 50 devices within them, then it's considered, pretty high noise concentration there. So having this type of technology that helps to bleed them to other sources at the same time will help overall throughput and overall, quality of service for those Wi-Fi customers. And our flagship model that we produce is the world's first Wi-Fi 7 with smart antenna technology. It's our WBE 660S. It's a triple radio wireless access point with Wi-Fi 7. It also has then enterprise grade solutions within housing, the shielding, the smart antenna, the heat spreaders, all of that to help to mitigate noise even from 4G and 5G cellular signals. So all of the different radios are being protected from that as well. So we have surge protection, 10 gig uplinks, It's PoE powered. So very, very, strong solution for that. Of course, we have models and solutions that are kind of below that, but that is our flagship model. But we have a whole range of solutions of Wi-Fi 7. Um, so whether you're using it for high density locations, where there's a lot of interference, that's a solution that you want to consider. Or if you're doing larger buildings, warehouses, retail, that kind of stuff, that's still a good option for you as well. To have all of those different types of devices and solutions. Again, pairing that up with the dynamic pre-shared key, it makes it for a very clean kind of installation and clean network environment for that. Or if you're doing high bandwidth applications, if you're doing VR, AR, gaming that requires Wi-Fi, but also high or low latency, but high bandwidth, then this is also a solution to consider as well with a 10 gig uplink. And because of Wi-Fi 7 and it's a multi-gig capable solution, then we have to also consider the infrastructure. And many people kind of push like the switching side of the network aside or just don't think about it as much, but definitely take some hard considerations because in order for you to support the Wi-Fi 7 to its full potential, you have to make sure the infrastructure, the core network, and the PoE power that you're using to power these devices are available and are running as optimal as possible. Um, we have a lot of customers who might just try to reuse old switches that might not have enough power to power some of these higher end devices. So make sure you keep track of that, what the devices need in order to work at its maximum speeds, and be able to then make sure that your infrastructure network and your PoE network doesn't need a refresh and upgrade. Of course, if you're doing Wi-Fi 7, it's probably considered a good idea to look at multi-gig connectivity with 10 gig uplinks or 10 gig core networks. Or if you're running the 660S, you definitely should consider a full 10 gig network powering those devices as well as uh, running the core within the network. But within the switches and within Nebula, it allows for you to do automatic network topology again. It has intelligent PoE that can power up almost twice as many devices on a single switch compared to competitors because we are actually using the actual power usage against the budget versus just classifying it and saying, hey, well, you're a 30-watt device, so I'm just going to reserve 30 watts, even if it only consumes 15 or if it only needs 15 max. So that's what we do for intelligent PoE. We can do vendor-based VLAN. So people always ask, do your switches can do VLAN? Can it do layer 2? Some of them will do layer 3 options as well. You can do VLANs, bandwidth control, bandwidth management, broadcast storm, security. A lot of those things is part of our solutions. It can auto detect and recover different types of PoE devices. So you can set up these thresholds so that if there's loss of traffic after a period of time, it will then try to reboot the device via PoE and try to bring it back online. So that is a great device solution to allow for things like IP cameras or even other types of phones or access points to help to bring them back online without you having to touch them at all. You can do virtual and physical cloud stacking, machine learning to address broadcasting storms or misconfigurations of certain things that are causing network issues there. And you can automate and streamline your deployments through this config backup, site cloning functionalities of these switches. And it follows the same kind of mapping with the Wi-Fi, where we have simplicity, flexibility, and ultimate. The ultimate would probably be for your like larger projects, your larger solutions that might need maybe even CLI, the most advanced switch security functions available, and then also kind of the highest bandwidth and um, uh, PoE options in that space, in the ultimate space. But of course, you might have some customers who just is a small business. I just need a web managed capable or cloud managed device that has PoE so that we can put a couple of access points. Then you might look at the simplicity or the flexibility. The majority of our partners settle in on the flexibility side, of course, and they either move up or move down depending on their solutions. We also carry a range of PoE injectors. We just launched our PoE 12-90W. That is a 10 gig uplink capable, but it also delivers up to 90 watts of power. So PoE injected power. We have a 60-watt version, and then we have a 30-watt injector version as well. All multi-gig, all the way up to 10 gig solutions. I don't have a slide on this one, but we do offer a new PoE 12-3PD. It is a 3-port PoE powered device that will also then relay the excess power to up to 3 other ports, to 3 other devices, up to 45 watts. So if you deliver 60 watts to the device to power it, it will then pass 45 watts onto those 3. So you could use that as an extender to power up maybe in a manufacturing area or in a warehouse, so you can get to a camera that is 600 feet away, or or 200 meters away. That's something that you can use for that, and it's also outdoor rated as well, so it's weatherproofed for that solution. And I think the street price on it is like $75 street price. So it's definitely something you should look at and consider if that's something you do and install. So the GS 1915 series, the 1915 series overall is the very baseline web cloud manageable switch solution. So it provides anywhere from 60 watts PoE up to 130 watts PoE on the 24-port version of this model. They're all Nebula powered, so you can configure and auto provision. And if you're looking for a multi-gig capable version, so these will provide you with 2.5 gig copper ports, and then anywhere between 130 watts all the way up to 180 watts of power of PoE. It also then comes with 10 gig SFP plus uplinks. So if you're trying to build this into kind of the lowest budget 10 gig core with Nebula manageability, this is the product to choose. If you do primarily CCTV, IP cameras type networks, the GS 1350 is a perfect device for that, because it has built-in extended range in it. So it can actually go up to 250 meters of Ethernet rather than your standard 100 meters. So you can enable that and be able to power up a camera that is, or a device that is, much further than you would hope, or further than you can run standard Ethernet to, and it allows for you to then still power up those devices. So we have a full range of that, as well as a continuous PoE functions within the switch, so that if you make a configuration change, or something that is updated that typically would require a software reboot, then we will still continually push the power on the PoE ports so that the devices like the cameras don't have to reboot themselves and power on once the device comes on. The network will just go down while it's rebooting, but the power of those devices will still stay on until the network comes back online. And then, of course, then traffic can flow through at that point. And it also has some extended surge protection as well. Most of our customers and partners use our Gigabit 1920 series as that flex model, because it gives you 8-port, 24-port, 48-port versions, both with and without PoE, and be able to use it in Nebula or use it in standalone as a web managed device. If you need a one with 10 gig uplinks, the XGS 1935 is a new version of our 10 gig 1930 series models. Provides you with advanced security, static routing functionalities, but also has gigabit ports with and without PoE, and 10 gig SFP uplink ports, so that you can build that 10 gig core. Our XS 1930 series starts with a full, every port is multi-gig all the way up to 10 gig capable. So we have fiber versions. We have one that is a 12-port like PoE, that has 8-port PoE plus 10 gig copper and 10 gig fiber uplinks, and one that has no PoE. So it depends on your solutions and what you're trying to build out there. And then if you're looking for a multi-gig kind of version of that series, then there's a multi-gig XMG 1930 series that gives you that software set of the whole 1920 and 1930 series software set, but gives you multi-gig ports or options for that, as well as ultra PoE ports. So there's 8 ultra PoE and 20 PoE plus plus. Sorry, PoE plus and 20 PoE plus and 8 PoE plus plus with a power budget of 700 watts. So quite a beefy device there. All of the 1930 series models come with an optional layer 3 software upgrade. So if you're looking at to do, network AV mode or CLI connectivity or CLI management, things like that, there is a one-time software that you can use to upgrade to unlock those kinds of feature sets. The GS2220 is part of our Ultimate series. Again, this is more in that project level. So there's options there again with the gigabit with and without PoE, 24 and 48 ports. And then there's an XGS 2220 series, which is the one with the 10 gig uplinks. So they'll come with SFP plus uplink ports that you can use to stack or use to build into the core as a 10 gig. Oh, just so you know as well, the 2220 series, the XGS ones, they also have high PoE capacity as well. So you can buy one, the 54 HP, comes with a 600 watt budget. And then there is a 54 FP, which is a 960 watt PoE budget. So for those types of, Wi-Fi 7 applications that need a lot of power on a lot of ports, then that's something that you would utilize. And then kind of a top of the rack type switch, our XS3800. I call it the Frankenstein of our switches because it has very flexible, both fiber and copper, and then interchangeable combo ports, either 10 gig fiber or 10 gig copper that you can use and mix and match at the top of the rack or as kind of your central core switches for all those other delivering, edge switches that you are needing to interconnect in a 10 gig core. So this is something that you would utilize and consider. So you can connect small businesses, small offices, home offices, things like that with these solutions, or they can get to bigger offices and solutions. So again, depending on what type of application you're trying to run, what kind of PoE, what kind of triple play you might have with voice video data, we have different solutions that will fulfill and fit those kinds of needs. Again, we can be as simple and as cost effective as possible, or provide you with a full feature set that you need to deliver complex applications with multiple segments of networks built across multiple buildings and such. We can do all of that within our solutions there on switching. And then on the security side, we offer then a very powerful security solution. It allows for you to keep up to date on security issues or environments and threats that are out there without you having to worry about those little details. All of these threats can be made within and protected against within minutes of an outbreak, because we use partners like Trellix, Webroot, and LifeLock in order to provide these kinds of information signatures to us to provide within our products. So we're empowered by some of the best in class security experts out there, as you see on this list, that go into our firewall solutions. Companies like Bitdefender, Siren, Webroot, Mastermind for geo enforcement, Cosmos for the app patrol functionality. All of these are utilized together because network threats don't just come as a port block or a port attack anymore. They come as sophisticated, malware, different types of vulnerability type, try to access things like that, which in these types of solutions, these kinds of security partners will detect to protect your network and your customer network. All of our solutions offer a 30-day trial. So if you are looking at a customer who says, hey, well, why do I need network security? The benefit is that you could install something like this, a Zyxel solution, and then offer a 30-day trial and showcase to them why and if they should subscribe to a network security solution. And so you can enable something like our 30-day trial of the Gold Security Pack that opens up and unlocks pretty much every solution available to that hardware device, including sandboxing, content filtering, web filtering, the malware protection, ransomware protection, and use that to provide a report to them. It's all of our solutions are also AI powered to look at malicious threats, also behaviors of users that might be malicious, and be able to detect those kinds of things on a multi-layer level. That multi-layer detections for like sandboxing, anti-malware, DNS reputation, even IP from different countries, and then application control. So if you're in a solution that's saying, "Hey, I need to be able to block somebody using a BitTorrent or even using a VPN tunneling system," uh, our solution can then detect those things by the packet level and be able to block those kinds of solutions from being utilized. So again, to protect your customer, protect your network in the process. And then we provide that information. So once you've enabled this and they've been using it for 30 days, we'd be collecting and identifying these threats, putting into some reporting. You can customize these reports and be able to deliver this through that Secu reporter solution that we have that's tied in with our Nebula, and showcase to them how many threats were blocked by this device, what websites did the employees go to most, or how much bandwidth did they use while they were in the office that month. So you can showcase that and be able to offer that as a service to your customers that, hey, I can control these things for you and monitor and manage that for you as an active service. You can centralize provisioning synchronization across multiple sites. If the customer has multiple different locations, you can build then simple VPN connectivity between it for an office to office, or if you're needing to create VPN tunnels from a laptop, be able to set up that configuration profile and make it really easy for them to install, and then synchronize those security profiles across multiple locations, for example. And then again, with remote work, using that secure Wi-Fi application I mentioned earlier to deploy a secure AP tunnel and extend your office network to whatever location you need that has internet connectivity, and they can function as if they were sitting within the physical office, doing two-factor authentication at the edge as well as two-factor authentication for VPN connectivity, the admin side using Google Authenticator. We also have support from some other ones as well. VPN Wizard for easy VPN setup, and then auto configuration of devices using like scripts that are native VPN to iOS and Windows. So we help to make that as easy as possible to set up that. And again, we have multiple layers of our security solution: effortless, simplicity, flexibility, and ultimate. So the range, again, most customers will be in our flexibility segment, and either choose to go up based on performance needs, et cetera, or they just have a simple network. And so the simplicity side or the effortless side, we have a product called the USG Lite 60AX. It has built-in ransomware protection, and it is subscription free, meaning that we are leveraging, our our solutions from that higher end firewall, bringing it down to kind of the small office type device, home router or small office router or small business router. We have customers that are taking this to use for um, point of sales systems, point of sales routers, in order to provide some level of security, but then be able to provide Wi-Fi 6 mesh capable solutions for those types of devices. So deploying this in a small restaurant or a coffee shop type deal. It offers then dual multi-gig ports, so you can use one for a multi-gig WAN connection, and then you can use the 2.5 gig for a LAN connection if you needed to do that. It also has built-in VPN, so if you need to do VPN tunneling to an office, to a main office, that can be done as well. And then there's an optional upgrade. There's an elite pack that allows for you to add additional functionality and security. So like 0-day ransomware protection, that you can have that type of solution security there, as well as content filtering services. That's part of that elite pack. And that, I think the street price on it is about $50 a year. So a very kind of low entry point, low cost there for MSPs and for customers who want some level of security, or maybe a little bit more security, and then having no security at all. So it allows for you as an MSP. It's perfect for MSPs to combine this because again, it's subscription free. You can still charge them a security management solution or monitoring system because it's still going to deliver you the security threats that it does see back to in the Nebula portal there. Um, and of course, you can combine this with other access points to get that meshing to extend the Wi-Fi that's available within this router solution. So I mentioned earlier, the USG Flex series is our kind of our flagship or the one that most partners standardize on because it's flexible. You can use it in a standalone with no security if you just need it kind of for a VPN device, or you can enable it with, or you buy the bundled version that comes with 1 year gold licenses standard that gives you the full sandboxing and all of the AI functionalities as well as the yearly subscription to the Nebula Cloud as well. Um, so you can do all of that with the USG Flex series. But I would encourage you to consider and to look at our next generation model, which is our USG Flex H series. H series is just our high performance UTM. It brings to the small business an affordable multi-gig capable offering at an SMB type price so that you can maximize your internet connectivity, especially if you have customers who are using gigabit WANs or higher. This is the product line that you need to go to or to standardize without compromising security. So this is the option you want to choose with our cloud manageable capable USG Flex multi-gig ports. When you're going at the 200 and above, you start seeing the multi-gig all the way up to the 700 H's, which then have 10 gig ports that you can utilize there. Some of the models that we do have are PoE powerable or have PoE power up to 30 watts. So if you want to extend an access point off of this or a phone or a camera, whatever devices you want, it has 30 watts to work with. So it's integrated within those models. That on the 100 and the 200, you have to look for the model that has the HP on it in order to get the PoE. On the 500Hs and the 700Hs, they just come standard with the PoE. So you can take advantage of it or not. So just a breakdown on kind of the performance, you could see the SPI firewall performances range from the low end, the 50H, the 50H even pushes like 2 gig, all the way up to the USG Flex 700Hs that do 15 gig of SPI throughput. But the real number that you want to look at if you're enabling security is the IPS and the UTM throughput. So the UTM throughput is if you turned on everything in the most, I guess, the most power hungry CPU intensive through scanning is the AV and the intrusion detection side because it's scanning packet by packet. You can see the performances here. So it ranges from a 600 megabits per second all the way up to 4 gigabits per second capable. The kind of the rule of thumb is if you take this number and look at 50 to 60% of that number, that's probably a real world throughput that you would want to use for a certain internet connection. So, for example, like the 50H here, to do UTM throughput, you're probably looking at anywhere between like a 300 to maybe 400 megabits per second office. So it's kind of that smaller office. And then on the 700, you're looking at maybe 2 to 2.5 um, uh, gigs of throughput. So somebody who has a 2.5 gig internet connection service can probably take advantage or fully take advantage of their internet connection with this type of device. So again, just how you judge. And I do have, some comparisons that I wanted to share with you as well. This was just taken recently over the past couple weeks on, testing against some of the other competitors like a FortiGate, a Sophos, and a very popular Ubiquiti Dream Machine that's out there. And comparing it against like our USG Flex 500H, for example, the malicious domain URL detection rate. You can see like Zyxel uh, performs pretty well. I would say probably the top average of detection rates for that. In this particular test case, there was over 2,500 test samples. We take them from OpenFish, VX Vault, URL House, and Fish Tank, and if they're reported in like 5 times or something like that, then that's the sample that is taken and utilize and test against these devices to see if they can detect that malicious or not, the malware there or the URL malware. or malicious domain there. But the Dream Machine probably consistently performs or doesn't detect things as well or as often. So that's probably something you need to consider if you are deploying a Dream Machine. That it's kind of a different class, and this is even more apparent when you're talking about anti-malware. So there was over 5,000 test samples that were used in this test, and you can see consistently there. The Dream Machine is in kind of its own class, right? It's not part of what we provide in our USG series and the FortiGate and Sophos. So we're in that enterprise level, and we are consistently, outperforming on detection rates of even what would be considered enterprise solutions or enterprise brands. So keep that in mind, because I know sometimes people right now, partners are moving to that Dream Machine side of it, and because of the low cost, but you then have a security potential, a security issue that you have to then consider. So it's that kind of, we're in that different class of product that compete against kind of that FortiGate side and the enterprise level of solutions there. But our products will connect teleworkers if you need to, if you're trying to put an office, of course, uh, big or small, depending on which kind of model you want to use, or you can use a variety of the different types of models in order to interconnect different offices, making um, VPN tunnels and load balancing tunnels, etc. We have solutions to do all of that. And then something I want to share with you, I didn't put it in here yet. Um, we do have a partner program, and part of the benefits of being a part of the program is you get all of these kind of uh, you get these kind of benefits. Especially, we want you to get to the gold level, because that gives you kind of the maximum margin at distribution, as well as the most support you can get uh, based on our program. Additionally, if you are a partner with us, we have just launched, and you might have gotten an email, or if you want to reach out to your sales rep, we are offering a Nebula demo kit. There are 3 different demo kits that you can choose from. Um, it offers you either on a router level, like a USG Lite 60AX, or if you want to test out a SMB Pro level, where you get a USG Flex 200H, as well as a switch and an access point, a Wi-Fi 7 access point, so that you can fully test the Nebula for free, 60 days, no questions asked if you want to return that. Or if you decide to keep it, you can buy it through distribution or pay for what we've sent you at a 40% off discount. So um, take advantage of it if you're trying to look into wanting to test all of these Nebula functions that I mentioned in this webinar. Take advantage of that, because we're basically giving you a device. We're going to ship it to you, and if you don't want it, you don't want to keep it, you don't want to buy it, um, we will just request a return label, and we'll send that to you so you can ship all of that back to us in 60 days. So you have 60 days to play around with it and see if not this solution is something that you could utilize for your customers. We believe very strongly that when you start using Nebula with our solutions, there is a great benefit that you will see within our solutions, especially even when on the free level. But I would take advantage of the full Pro pack and the full network set and the networking functionality set that's available in that Pro. If you want to connect with us, um, we are on LinkedIn, Zyxel-US-channel, or on YouTube at Zyxel America channel, or you can connect with me on LinkedIn as well. Just search for Zyxel TRI, and you'll find me there as well. And I think we only have like 1 minute left. There weren't any questions that were asked during the webinar, but because we are running kind of out of time, you can send me questions if you do think of them, have any questions. Send them to TRI at Zyxel.com, and I'd love to answer them or direct them over to who can answer for you. I guess I'll give you your minute back of your day, and I'll say thank you for joining. Hopefully, this has been informative for you, and hopefully, we can work together and be networking partners in this business and provide you and be your networking ally. Until next time, we'll talk to you again soon.